Welcome to the Fantôme sessions that Floating Sound Gallery Vienna runs. My name is Anton Iakhontov, in charge of the Sound Gallery and this program, and I'm very happy that today there's a special occasion. There's Teruggi, my dear friend, teacher, and co-curator of very many things, acousmatic festivals we do together for years, and also this series Fantôme is possible because we program the program. Yeah. So today Daniel is director of GRM of Group de Recherche Musicale for 20 years and recently retired. He's a great composer who died 10 years ago as a classical composer of the electroacoustic music. It's Bernard Parmegiani. And also the piece is also it's a very fundamental piece for him. It's called the Natura Sonorum, and we're happy that today, before the performances, we have a preview to present something that only Daniel knows. So yeah.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah.
So, dear audience, welcome you here. We have public coming from different countries, including Russia, Mexico, and Belgium. So it's really international. So today I'm going to speak, and this wonderful lady here sitting in front of me. Today I'm going to speak about this work, the Natura Sonorum. The Natura Sonorum means on the nature of sound. So it's a work composed by Bernard Parmegiani in the 70s. But Bernard Parmegiani is one of the great figures of electroacoustic music. He was born in 1927, so he died when he was 85. He really has marked many generations of composers with his work mainly around the idea of carving sound, inventing sounds, and making music with his sounds. In the history of electronica and techno music, they say that Pierre Schaeffer and Pierre-Henry are the grandparents of electronica, and Parmegiani is the father. So let's talk about the father of electronica. So I'm going to present the work. I will say some words about Parmegiani, which was a good friend. We worked together in the same institution for 15 years. Then he retired, and then we kept seeing ourselves all the time. He used to live not far from my place. And this work is one of his, I would say his major work, composed in 1974 and 1975. And there's a little text he wrote. I will read to you, and this text expresses a bit how Parmegiani was. I'll come back to that in a second. So with the Natura Sonorum, I approach a new period in my creation, where after having searched to link the sound material to form and its evolution, I attach myself in this moment to the writing of sounds, those sounds whose ink, one could say, is extracted from materials that I try to combine, to confront in order to observe their nature. It's interesting, this word, writing the sound. It actually is an expression we use a lot in French. For example, when you study composition, you're going to make the writing courses. Harmony, counterpoint, orchestration, instrumentation, they're writing courses. L'écriture musicale, how to write music. And so he transposes this idea of writing to use it as a tool to carve and invent new sounds. So what is this work? It's 52 minutes long, 12 movements. And each movement explores a different sound situation. And it's very difficult to translate it to English because some concepts exist only in French. So the first movement, incidence, résonance, incidences, resonances. Incidences, you have something and then something comes to bother. There's an incident in the street. Life was running normally and there was a small incident. Accidents, harmonics. So this is a very harmonical movement with a little bit of accidents. Sound geology, probably the one I prefer. And the name also is beautiful. You see why it's named like that. But already it gives you some idea, sound geology. Dynamics of resonance. Resonance is when you make a sound and it is continued, like a bell, for example, and how you can modify that resonance through time. Elastic study. Elastic sounds. It's an analogy to the way a rubber band may behave. Conjugated timbre. Wow. That, for example, is almost impossible to translate. Conjugaison du timbre. Conjugaison, it means conjugated, but it's the act of saying the verbs. So I conjugate, instead of the verb, I conjugate a sound. So different ways of presenting different variations of the same sound. The second series is incidences, beats. Beat is ooh, 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 ooh. Ephemeral natures, induced matters, crossed waves, light and strong strokes. This is also impossible. Plein et délié. Plein et délié is the technique you use with an ink pen. And when you put it in a way, it makes a very narrow line. When you turn it around, it makes a, you must know that, a large line. So it's called plein. Plein is large and délié. So with the same pen, you can draw different forms. So he tries to do the same thing with sound. So I translate it as a light and strong strokes. And the last one, points and reverse angles. Reverse angles is in cinema, contre-champ. So it's... Now, who is this Bernard Parmegiani? He started his life doing mimics, his early 30s. Here is a photo, very yellowish. This is the photo of 1972. So it's 60 years, no, 60 years old. No, 50 years old, sorry. And you can see Parmegiani on the right side with the yellow sweater. François Bell, which we performed here and in St. Petersburg several times. And he was director of the GRM for 30 years. Pierre Schaeffer, who founded the group, and two other persons, Guy Rebel and David Rissin, who were two composers working there at that time. And now I have a series of photos in which you find Schaeffer, François Bell, and Bernard Parmegiani, sometimes in a comical situation. The photos is nice because it's in the studio, as it was in 1972. So François Bell is putting a little heart on the head of Parmegiani. They're here, the three friends. Here they're aiming with a hammer a stella box. Stella box is a word that may not resound in your room, but it was the tape recorder in the you know the stella box. It was extremely expensive. It would be 3,000-4,000 euros today. Very small. It was really the Rolls Royce of little tape recorders. So they're aiming to break this tape recorder. Once again, now they're trying to hit Parmegiani's head. This beautiful photo, Pierre Schaeffer. Difficult to imagine him joking this way. And finally, the three of them. And this is a photo of the moment he is preparing the concert for the first performance of the Natura Sonorum. Now, I'm going to quickly go through the 12 movements and make you listen just a small excerpt so you can start building up your ears, and I will explain some issues regarding the way he works. Parmegiani made a score of his work. You will see that the score is something particular in this domain, because it's not a score as a piano score or a guitar score in which you are giving instructions to somebody to do something that he masters as the piano or the guitar. Here, what we call a score is a listening score. It's something that helps you understand the sounds that you're listening to. It's like a kind of graphic description of what you're listening to. So if you see two of the movements that are in yellow, because we don't have the scores of those movements. Because after the work was first, this is a really small story. After the work was first performed, it was published in a CD, and 52 minutes wouldn't fit into excuse me. It was published in a vinyl record, not in a CD. And in those days, you couldn't put 52 minutes. You could only put 49 or 50. So they decided to take two movements away for that. And for the vinyl publication, he prepared the score. And here you have a description, and I'll try to show it even if the image is not very clear. And at the bottom, we have a sentence. Most of them said by Parmegiani himself, because this work was so important that some 10 years after, there was a book that was written about this work. Now, it's difficult to write a book about a piece of music, even if you find, I don't know, the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, wonderful. How do you write a book about it? The difference here was that the composer was there, Parmegiani. There were all the elements he had used to make the work. And there were musicologists wanting to work with that. There is a general principle in music that when you analyze a musical work, there are 3 points of view possible. One is analyzing the intentions of a composer. Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, I wanted to describe through music the countryside around Vienna, let's say. Then, so that's called the intention analysis. Then you have what is called the neutral analysis. I take the work, I forgot the intentions, I forgot how you listen to it, and I analyze the elements. It's what you do when you take a score and you try to analyze and make links between all the things you can see. And then there's the other point of view, which is the reception point of view. What are my reactions as a listener? What do I feel? How do I react to this and this? So this book analyzes the 10 movements, not the 12, only 10 movements, from these 3 points of view. What were the intentions of the composers? What were the elements he used? So there's a long description of the elements he uses. And then when you listen to it, what are your reactions? It's a 250-page book, which was quite popular because it was the first time you could get into a work. So for this work also, Parmegiani made the score. And he says, I wanted to explore in which way concrete sounds obtained by recording objects, could mean akin electronic sounds and their resonances, while searching for a homogeneity among them. Now you can't see very well, but here's a description of the different sound he is using. And we'll listen to the first line, let's say. So you read it. The marks are the time, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 seconds. And so this is about 2 minutes long. And it's just made by listening and with a chronometer. So you know that at 12 you have 2 events, and then 3 events, etc., etc. Well, not much happens here, but I'll make you listen to it. Here you understand a little bit better the name, incidences, resonances. You have a continuous resonant sound, and it's interrupted by small accidents. The next movement is harmonic accidents. Well, it will be difficult to follow. It's also the first time. I want you to call this movement la musique, music. Hello. Or maybe a certain music, I don't remember well. It is around the concept of music that my ideas crystallize. So he's saying, with any kind of sound, I want you to make something that recalls what we all more or less think music is. It's based on a unique sound that is continuously modified. So this is sounding geology. The initial idea came from an image. Earth seen by a plane. When you're on a plane, you see the ground moving without exact forms. You see global masses, dark and light colors. So this is the idea that you have sound and you're seeing it from above. You're not getting into it. You're like a kind of distant observer of it. You have kind of drone, very slowly moving. It's a long movement. We'll discover it while we will be listening it during the concert. Here there's no score. It's only your mind that will make the score. Dynamic of the resonance. This is an exploration with a microphone of a unique sound, resonated through different forms of percussions. You have a sound, and then you put it near a bell, you put it near a drum, and it changes the nature, the vibration of the sound. Next, elastic study. Differently from the previous movements, the étude élastique didn't pose any particular problem. I didn't have any specialty initially. It was composed so quickly I didn't see myself doing it. He doesn't say much about the work, but he talks about his feelings while he is composing. The drawings are just his imagination. He says, okay, this sound, it would be nicely this way, or this other sound this way. And it's difficult to express all the richness and diversity of sounds in a two-dimensional screen, let's say. This is the sixth movement, is the end of the first part. Here's where you conjugaison du timbre. I don't like so much this movement. Its conception was a bit simple, a kind of litany of timbre on a tonic axe, where my purpose is to explore the variation of different colors of timbre. It's really a beautiful moment, as you will see. The seventh movement. This movement is a reminder of the first one. However, the incidences here become accidents. You always have a continuous sound, and it's regularly interrupted by accidents. No score here. Ephemeral natures. In the previous work, Ephemeral Capture, I played with static elements where I explore dynamic elements. There is an alternance between static sounds and dynamic elements, which create a spatial dynamics. Matière induite. Between my initial ambition and the final results, sometimes there is a contradiction. Here, from beginning to end, I find a perfect continuity. This movement works on the linking of sound material to form analogies, going from glass to wood, from glass to liquid. Crossed waves, the audible vibration of a pizzicato, interfere with the waves which we guess are visible at water drops on the water surface. I imagine that the waves on the water surface are audible for us. He really makes a traditional rhythmic transcription of all the sounds. Extremely. I was taking a huge amount of time to transcribe this. Then the two last ones, plein et délié, upstrokes and downstrokes, a study about the amortized energies of bouncing objects. Some empty bubbles and some dense points create a relation between their heaviness and their lightness. Don't imagine it's easy even for me to follow the score, because you're trapped in a kind of a visual trap. Because, for example, when you have it like here, you have a silence. It is a long silence, but your view tells you there is a silence. And you tend to shorten the time. And so you say, but it should have arrived, and it doesn't arrive because the 5 seconds didn't go through. But it's a kind of time concentration because you have a vision of what's going to come on later on. So the last movement is called point contre champ. It's a long struggle between antagonist events. Some are short, others continuous. It is the history of this antagonism which is colored by the victory of the continuous one. So two kinds of matter that are in a kind of conflict, and then at the end, there's one that wins. It's the longest movement, it's about 8 minutes and something, and it's really a beautiful movement, and it's a good ending